So you're the guy in that $16,000 dog costume that everybody's been talking about?
Yeah, it's a passion project of mine. You will not believe how much effort went into. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I can imagine. Well, you don't know about the dog costume, Matt.
I have literally no idea what you're referring to.
There's a guy that dresses up as a dog. He wants to be a dog, and he's walked by his owner. I thought that was you this whole time, dude. You kept talking about the 16 grand you spent on your animal costume. That must have been for something else.
It was for something else. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I must have missed that in my Twitter feed. Yeah.
He's been around for a while.
Oh, okay. Well, no, It's not me. I can see why you would assume, based off of my past, but no, it's not.
All right. You ready to start the show?
I am. Yeah. Yeah, I'm ready.
Welcome to Level With Me podcast.
Two famous content creators discuss video games, life, and other stuff.
Oh my God, they are so hot.
What do you think, Matt? We're up in the production quality here.
It was so bad.
It was so bad.
It's
awful.
Yeah, great intro.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I spent a lot of time on that one, and
I can tell.
Yeah, I spent a little bit of time on it, and then I sent some files off to Alex, my editor, and I was like, "Can you make this sound like a bad radio jingle?" And he was like, "Here you go." And he's like, "This is awful, by the way." I was like, "Oh yeah,
totally. It's terrible. That is terrible."
Anyone watching who wants to make us a good radio jingle? I tried and clearly failed.
I don't think you failed. I think that was 10 out of 10.
Did you catch that you were in it, Matt? You were kind of laughing. I don't know if you heard it.
I guess I missed it.
Here. Try not to laugh.
So I'll try not to. Yeah,
okay,
sorry.
okay.
Apologies.
Welcome to Level With Me podcast.
Two famous content creators discuss video games, life, and other stuff.
Milk me, mother.
Oh my God, they are so hot.
Did you catch yourself in there, Matt?
Yeah, I caught it that time. Yeah, I caught it that time. Yeah, thanks for pointing it out again. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I did miss that.
So what's cool about this intro, Matt,
Mm-hmm.
and you might be catching on to it a little bit because I sent you a little audio file last week that was you saying, "Hi, my name is Matt and I like ice cream."
Yeah,
and I have uploaded your voice now to AI voice generators, I guess. So I can type in sentences and then select Matimi0, and it will just say them like you would say them. So I can type in things like "milk me, mother."
You have too much power. You have way too much power.
There's definitely legal. It's a legally gray area, shall we say?
You think? You think so? Yeah.
Yeah.
A little gray.
And then the hot chick at the end that's going, "Oh my God, they're so hot." That's me, but I'm using a Margot Robbie voice mod.
It doesn't sound like her. I mean, it kind of does.
She's Australian, and I don't know how to speak in an Australian accent. So it's like American Margot Robbie, kind of.
But your voice too.
Yeah, but my voice too. Yeah. It's,
terrible.
Yeah, I know. Well, what am I going to do? Pay somebody to make that terrible intro?
Yeah, you do. That's what you do. Like we do with the background.
Yeah, that's true. Well, see, that's the thing. Initially with the background, we did AI generated. See, eventually, once we get our intro dialed in, then we could pay somebody.
Yeah, we can actually get her to do the voice. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I'm sure she'd be down. Be great.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So how's your week? How's your week been, Matt?
It's been pretty good. Been playing a lot of video games.
Yeah.
Playing a lot of video games. Got done with Assassin's Creed Mirage, finished off Lies of P, and played the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 beta.
Yeah. So what do you think of COD? I was so uninterested this year that I didn't go for it, and some Battlefield stuff was happening at the same time, so I was like, I'll just do Battlefield instead of COD. And if it looks great, I'll jump in. What are your thoughts?
Well, so there was the big COD event, and all the COD content creators went, and the hype out of that was pretty high. A lot of content creators were like, Call of Duty is back.
Call of Duty's
COD's back, baby. And that's great. But my reaction to that hype is, you don't say. I feel like I'm a crazy person because every year I feel like these tweets and these YouTube videos come out where they're like, COD's back, baby. And it's fun. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy Call of Duty. But then a couple of weeks or a month goes by and then everyone is just dunking on the game and they're saying it's the worst Call of Duty. And so when I went into the beta, I was a little skeptical. But I got to say is that they were all right.
It's back. You're back.
It's
Are
back.
you hyping it, Matt? You got that Activision paycheck yet?
No. It's tough to say because I played on PlayStation 5. That was the only beta available.
Okay.
The PC and Xbox version will be out in this weekend. And I used mouse and keyboard because you've been able to do that for 4 years now. You just plug in your mouse and keyboard to your PlayStation and you can play.
Does it work pretty well?
It works, but there's a ton of input lag. So everything feels really floaty.
So weird that they can't just fix that.
Yeah, it is weird. And so it's better than me trying to use a controller because I am terrible with the controller, even with the aim assist. I tried and I actually did reasonably well one game, but I'm such a fish out of water that I just felt awful. So I switched back and the mouse and keyboard is fine enough where I was successful, but it was hard to kind of really understand the mechanics of everything because there was that big input lag. That said, it was fun. It is basically just nostalgia bait, though.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking because I saw the trailer and it just looks like COD. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, as somebody who's not a huge fan of COD, I understand like me seeing nostalgic maps for Battlefield. I'd be like, yeah. And somebody else would be like, well, that just looks like Battlefield. Is that basically all it is, though? Is because it doesn't look like anything particularly
they're
innovative.
playing it really safe.
Okay.
So I think wasn't the rumors that there was going to be a delay. There was going to be a break from Modern Warfare 2. They're going to take a year off. And they were going to wait another year until we got the next Call of Duty.
Yeah.
But then Modern Warfare 2 happened. It sold a ton, but it didn't really retain its player base. And so what it looks like is they scrapped that idea and now are making Modern Warfare 3. But if you look at it from the lens of, we had this planned as like a DLC for Modern Warfare 2, it makes so much more sense. The fact that it's 16 remade maps from the original Modern Warfare 2, it's like, you would think that would just be an expansion for the last game.
That's the thing. I saw the trailer and I was like, I can't actually differentiate visually from the other game and the new game. Really, I'm not that tuned into all the like nuanced skins and whatever.
Neither can I. But yeah,
it looks almost identical. So I don't know. Like I guess COD people are excited about it, but I think my interest in COD is at like an all-time low right now, probably since I started YouTube. Yeah. They're just not innovating anymore. So you're just like, okay, I guess
I don't think you're going to get innovation this time around. The reason why I think COD players are excited about this and why I am too is the old maps. It's nostalgia, right? Going in, playing on Favela again. There are some real classic maps that I wouldn't say grew up on, but loved back in the day because Modern Warfare 2 was one of my first Call of Duties. And I loved it. And so to be able to play on all of the classic maps again is exciting. I think the other reason why people are excited is because of the movement system is more like Modern Warfare 2019 than it is Modern Warfare 2. That was a really contentious point where it was frustrating for the people that got really good at the old movement. And then there went something that was a lot slower and clunkier, more realistic. Right. And that turned a lot of people off. And so it's more of a return, maybe not all the way back to 2019, but you're not going to be able to like, when you can sprint for like 2 seconds or like a split second slide and your character just like flies forward on the ground and you can jump in the air.
Is melee still like lightsabers where you like downing people from like 10 feet away somehow?
There wasn't too much melee going on during the beta that I saw, but so I can't really speak on that. But I did have people that were quite literally jumping around a corner and they would literally fly through the room. And it's like, I can't track this. What is this? So if you enjoyed that old movement, it does seem to be back, or at least more like 2019.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's good for, it's so funny how all the preferences become so nuanced with Call of Duty, because to the layman, you're like, well, that looks like the last game. And they're like, yeah, but the movement is whatever. And I think I've gotten bored with the franchise. So the things that excite me about the franchise are the ones like Advanced Warfare, where they try something new and crazy. And I'm like, oh, jump jets, wall running. And I'm like, that looks cool. I'm into it, because it almost looks like Titanfall to a degree. Yeah. And then everybody else hates it because it's not the classic experience. I'm like, oh man, that was probably the COD that I spent the most time with in the last 10 years was like Advanced Warfare. And then the other ones, I was like, oh yeah, this is like all the other ones.
Yep. What I find fascinating is the comparison. And I think this is probably why they tried going more slower in Modern Warfare 2 is the conflicting themes. You have what looks like kind of like all of their skins are really cool and gritty and tactical. They've got all these weapon customizations.
Oh, and then you've got
that's more authentic. Yeah, and then you've got people jumping around corners and sliding around, and it looks ridiculous, right?
Yeah. So
you have this. The thematics of it is like, oh, we're tactical, but we're also jumping around everywhere. But it's a game at the end of the day. It's supposed to be fun, and if that's what people like, that's what people like.
Yeah, I feel like Modern Warfare 2 was sort of that. I didn't like it as much as the Modern Warfare before it. And Modern Warfare 2 started to get into more of that faster, crazier gameplay a little bit more. Like the flow and pacing of it just felt a bit quicker and crazier than the first one. But they still retained all of that tactical military visual look to it for the most part. I think some of the skins start to get a little weird as you progress further, but it was sort of like evolving into the new era of COD at that point. I feel like Modern Warfare 2 was that jumping off point more so. I agree. Than other games, yeah.
Especially compared to the original Modern Warfare. We know it's I just want to point out how stupid it is, Division. How confusing this is, where we constantly have to be like, oh, you mean the 2019 Modern Warfare.
It's terrible. I can't believe a gigantic company like Activision doesn't have somebody who can come up with a better idea.
I know. They didn't need to do this. They didn't need
marketing to. That were just like, well, according to our data, we'll sell 5% more copies if we just call it Modern Warfare 2. And they're like, okay, let's just do that.
Pretty much.
But
one thing that is cool is that there's perks, but they're not called perks anymore. Or they may be called perks, but it's always been kind of silly how you give your character, maybe you're light-footed, so they're faster, or they have whatever, like they have ghosts so that they're quieter or whatever. In this game, it's the same thing, but there's actually an equipment that is associated with it. So you have like different sneakers, you have a different camo, and I don't think it does anything to your actual visuals.
To your gear, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I was like, why haven't they done this sooner?
Yeah, that seems like as opposed to like, here's some fantasy ability that you just have. I'm sneaky.
It's still fantasy. It's like, oh, I'm wearing super sneaky sneakers compared to these boots, right? Like and like I said, I don't think it does anything here.
Like ninja slippers or something. You're like, you got multicam and ninja slippers. You're like, you never heard them coming.
Yeah. But the thematics of it, I thought, were more appropriate to what they were going for.
I do like attributing the abilities to gear a little bit more as opposed to being sort of a nebulous ability that just is whatever. It's just a game ability. You have it now.
This is the blue colored perk.
Yeah.
That has a star in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, the abilities still are very fantasy, where it's like, after you get it killed, now you can do this. And you're like, that doesn't make any sense, but it's fun. Yeah, it makes it fun. So do people still look forward to the base gameplay a lot, or does that just last like a couple of weeks and then everybody's on to Warzone?
What do you mean by base? Oh,
like Call of Duty Classic, whatever you want to call it.
You're talking about just the multiplayer.
Yeah, the classic multiplayer.
I've seen some rumblings in the Call of Duty community that they are more excited for the multiplayer this time around.
Okay.
But I do think you're right that things have definitely pushed more towards Warzone, because that's just where the hype is around the genre right now. The spawn kind of gets tedious for a lot of people these days because there isn't like stakes to it. Though I will say I had some really fun matches where it was a back and forth on domination, and it was competitive. It was like, this is close, and it was really fun. So it could just be the nostalgia speaking, but yeah, you're not wrong. It does die off a lot faster than it did before.
It's a good thing they have a game that comes out every year, so they can re-inject some stuff, once everybody's bored to death of the game after a year. It can give you a new one. Speaking of going back to some of the classics, the new Battlefield map is infantry only, which has not, it's kind of wild because I didn't think about it for a while because I'd kind of given up on giving feedback to 2042 because it's like, it's too late. They're going to do whatever they're going to do with the game and I don't care. But they didn't have an infantry only map. And you start to think about it and you're like, wait, Metro, lockers, like all of these classic Battlefield experiences were infantry only or like very reduced vehicle stuff. And then 2042, almost every single map has jets and helicopters. And I think almost all of them do, where they actually have like a full air force and a full tank force and then also infantry. And this one is actually pretty cool. It's like lockers, but if lockers had cool story and like themes to it. And it's the
honestly, visuals also look really impressive.
Mm-hmm. I think it's one of Battlefield's better maps. It happens to be in 2042, which is whatever, but they're actually trying to integrate story. Like they have creative freedom, right? They're not tied to a real war or a boring war like BF3. They're like, what's the story?
Boring. Yeah, boring war.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like BF3. What's the war in BF3? We don't really know. It's they're fighting the guy over the oil
the
fields.
bad guys. Yeah.
There's no, and if they did put a story to it, it would be boring, right? You wouldn't read that story for the map. It would be like, oh, so-and-so has invaded and taken over our oil fields. We got to fight it. And that's it. Who cares? Like, end of story. But because this is 2042, it's in the future, they get to create this story about like creating like kind of, I think it's like symbiotes or something. It's like people mixed with machines and super soldier serum or something. And it's a secret lab and you're trying to steal the tech or somebody has the tech. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's more interesting. They get to have some fun with it. And like visually, it's a really cool looking map. And I don't know if you saw the domes in it, but it's got these like underground
kind of the Titanfall domes.
The artificial outdoor area
where it makes it seem like it's outdoors. Yeah. It's neat. I think the reason why we haven't gotten why we haven't gotten infantry only is 128 players at launch. It was rushed launch, so they just didn't have, and then it's Battlefield, so I feel like they always try to make it more of a mix between the two. So
it was like, how long was it? It was like a year or so after launch before they basically gave up on trying to commit to 128, when they were like, okay, guys, we have to realistically accept that we are not going to be able to balance 128, at least not in any sort of...
They tried. I only feel like it was the last couple of deals or seasons where they basically just dropped it entirely.
Yeah, I don't think it's impossible. I just think it's more work and they just didn't have the resources to do it.
It's hard.
Because like obviously BattleBit's a fun game and that's double the player count. And it's not to say that it plays well all the time. Sometimes it plays like insanity. But I did enjoy the 128 player stuff in Battlefield when it was hitting well. Sometimes you would just peek over an angle and you'd have like 20 sniper targets and you'd be like, all right, like let's go to town, And that was cool. You couldn't do that in any other Battlefield game just because of the target saturation. But of course, it broke down in the choke points where you're just like, this is intolerable. This is endless grenade spam,
Yep.
So it takes a lot more work to balance it out. They gave up on it. And I think that's when they sort of realized at some point after that, they're like, oh, hey, now that we're not committed to 128, we can probably do some infantry only stuff. It is just wild that it took this long to get there. But I think this is going to fill that important niche because if you look back at the classic games now, when you load them up, they're like, well, there's Metro 24/7. There's Locker 24/7. That's what people are still playing, is these very infantry only grindy games, which 2042 is like, you can get the infantry combat, but you're also going to get blown up by a tank and a helicopter and like some of those super powerful vehicles that just happen to drive by at some inopportune moment. And you're like, oh yeah, right. I'm also
well.
cannon fodder.
I'm hoping that there's a lot of lessons learned from Battlefield 2042.
You would have thought there would have been from BF5 too. That's the
You
only
would have.
problem. Yeah.
You would have, and that's the frustrating part about being a Battlefield fan is they keep making improvements to their past games after launch, and you're like, yeah, keep doing that, and then the next Battlefield comes out, and it's like they never communicated with the people that were working on the previous title as the skeleton crew who were fixing it up and filling all the holes, and then you have all the same problems that you had before. So one thing I like about, and a lesson it looks like they learned from previous Battlefield games, which gives me some hope, is it looks like they've acknowledged that choke points on Metro and Locker can be quite frustrating. And while I haven't played on the map, from the people like you that I watched your video, Jack Frags, and everyone else, it looks like they've added more flanking routes to just get things moving and they don't get super stagnated.
Yeah. Well, so I got to interview the devs about the process, and it's pretty interesting because they're kind of re-exploring the classic map design as well, because 2042 maps are all like, here's this giant sprawling area and we're going to put some buildings over here and some roads over here and some trees over here, but it's this huge area, so you're not making lanes anymore, right? You're not
right.
There's nobody with like a sheet of paper and they're like drawing out the lanes and the like design for the map, and they're like,
it's
okay, let's make it like that. Yeah, it's too big. They're just like, there's a bunch of buildings here and a bunch of buildings there and a forest in between, and that's like the map design. So now they're getting back to the lanes. And they talked about like actually trying a whole bunch of lanes because they didn't want to get choke pointy, and then it ended up being too chaotic. And it ultimately came back down to the 3-lane formula that is so popular in so many maps. And they added a couple of shortcuts, they call it a bypass, I guess, which is like the secret thing to make the 3-lane map actually work, is you need like a bypass system to it that can, I guess, go all the way around or flank all the way around. So when you get tired of going through the grindy part, you can try the bypass, right? And that gives you
which can still have its own grindiness to it.
Yeah, for sure. Once everybody figures out that the bypass is like the thing, but it seems like it spreads it out enough where as long as you're alternating between the lanes, you'll usually find a weak point somewhere and then you can break through. So it was cool talking to the devs about them re-exploring that again and testing different techniques and ultimately kind of coming back to the same fundamentals of map design that I've missed so much since BF3 and BF4 when there were so many more maps. BF3 really more, particularly with like Grand Bazaar and stuff, where it was like, here's the lanes, here's how the flow is supposed to work. You can really learn these particular angles really well and get good at the maps and like figure out all the little secrets and choke points and
stuff. Or
just
shoot rockets onto the building and rubble everyone.
I think that was a high point of Battlefield. Is just
it was
rubble
cool.
dropping in BF3 was fantastic. Yeah.
You're like, oh, there's a huge horde of people over there. Well, I could just try to have a fair firefight, but I have a rocket and you don't. So get good.
Yeah. Oh man. The good old days. I thought that was what I thought Battlefield was going to do when BF3 dropped. I was like, great, I can't wait to see what the next 2 or 3 games do to destruction. I thought they were just going to keep
it's gotten less and less over the years, unfortunately.
I thought they're going to keep pushing it where you could like knock out a pillar of a building and actually drop it on a tank or something. I was expecting that kind of cool stuff.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, but it just never got there. They just pushed it in weird different directions, and
it's hard to balance, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so excited for the finals, because it's actually pushing that destruction and to a whole other level, and I really like the finals.
I do.
I'm hoping
too.
that it turns out well.
I keep asking that dev that we were playing with when it's coming out. I have him on Discord. I'm like, how's it going, man? How's progress going?
How you doing?
And he can't say much about it, but I am actually excited for it. I'm very scared that not enough people are going to like it, because it does feel like that new game that could really take off if it's kind of perfected. But I think they probably see that too, where they're like, if we don't do this just right, it's going to
it could flop.
Yeah, it's going to lose its player base really quickly. So maybe it's got to have enough. Maybe they're working on just getting the progression system deep enough so that people don't burn through it too quickly or something.
Well, I don't think it's just progression. I think it needs to play really smoothly at launch, and that was the one thing each playtest that I've experienced where it was pretty rough. The first one was even worse. The second one was a lot better, but the fact that your movement is server side theoretically can be good, but if there's that little bit of delay where you want to move forward and your character just has that clunkiness to it because it's not tied to your client where it's instant, then you're going to feel like you're just not fully in control. It can feel very floaty.
Yeah.
And that is something we did experience. At least I experienced a lot.
For sure. I experienced it. And the first couple of playtests too, I couldn't figure out how I was missing these shots. I would even watch the footage back and I'd be like, oh, I guess the spread on the shotgun is kind of weird or something. And turns out like, yeah, there's a lot of errors with the game. And just like, it came out later, they're like, yeah, the spread on the shotgun doesn't work correctly, or like they shoot off center or whatever. And so I was like, oh, okay. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. It's like a lot of little things started to make a lot more sense after I realized all the little bugs and errors with it. But it is really innovative. It's really cool. And I just hope it can stand up against all the other like juggernauts that are trying to dominate the space. But I'm rooting for Embark, man. I just like them. I think they have cool ideas. They got good style. Like
they're doing something different.
Yeah.
I think if they just have a good launch, if they have a good launch window where there isn't like a ton of games and people are maybe waiting on something fresh, and also it's just got to be polished at launch. It just needs to be a really polished game with plenty of content. And if they can do it, that'd be the good foundation.
Yeah, and when it comes out too, that'll be an interesting thing too, because people are going to try and cheese it as much as possible. It's like when we were doing the like 3 turret meta and just laughing. Yeah, because people were running into it. Though it was great, and I'm sure there's already good counters for that, right? But people are going to try and cheese that game so hard, right? So they're going to try and get all their unlocks and the top scores and all that stuff, and so it'll be interesting to see them try and stay on top of the cheese, but because of all the freedom they give you in that game with the super dynamic destruction, it just gives people all this freedom to like break it in ways that the devs never anticipated. So it'll take a while, I think, to dial
I mean, that's why Overwatch went to, you can't use the same hero on your team. You have to use, And also they changed it where you can only have, 2 healers, a tank now, and 2 DPS, because it's got to be really difficult to balance it all with the combination of all the characters. And that's, while not going to be as severe, I think, in the finals, it will be tough. It's always hard.
It might even be a thing where they're like, well, you can have 2 medium classes, but you can't have them both running turrets, or you can't have them both running heal guns or something, right? Like they might... They might lock it in some way, but yeah, well, it's clear that they're still playing around with it. Yeah, I am excited about it though, man.
Same.
Yeah. So we were talking last podcast, with Tim, and one subject that we brought up that I has kind of stuck in my head a bit was I was asking him like, well, do you think you could launch Titanfall 3 with a similar formula as Titanfall 2 and just expect it to do well? And he was like, no, absolutely not. And I was reading some of the comments in our videos with people actually disagreeing with that and being like, no, if it launched now, it would definitely do well. And it did poorly. But I think Tim was right. I think Tim is right. And I think that's kind of a growing trend with the games right now. And I apply it to Battlefield, where I think if they launch, everybody keeps asking for the classic Battlefield, right? They're like, oh, BF3, BF4, those were the golden days of Battlefield. I want that experience back. Yeah. But I think if they give us that experience, it's not going to do well because of how much the market's changed now. So I keep thinking about that and I go, what is the next Battlefield game going to be? What do I want it to be? Because I want it to be fun and I want it to hit all those notes that I like about Battlefield, but I also want it to be exciting enough to attract a mainstream audience again. I'm like, well, what's it got to do to get mainstream? Because BF3, BF4 is not going to attract a mainstream audience again. It's going to be small comparatively to everything else going on.
And I'm sure this is why they tried to do what they did with Battlefield 2042, is they recognize that, or at least they think that is what is required to get a larger audience, is specialists and bigger maps, and they were trying to bring in the hazard zone to try to incorporate that gameplay loop, and it's impossible to say. It really is, because we're not game developers and we don't have the stats and we don't really know what's going on the back end. But yeah,
but we can
it's
see
tough
the
to say.
concurrent player counts, and we can see how they stack up against the biggest games right now and what people are actually playing. And it's not the classic shooters anymore, you know. Halo Infinite's got like 5,000 concurrent on Steam, you know, and that's free. It's like a great game that's free, and you're like, okay, like
yeah. And well, the thing is it's really hard to know, because is it not successful because it had such a bad launch and it had no hype behind it? Like all these games, like Battlefield and Halo, they had horrible launches, and first impressions are so important nowadays.
Yeah. But what do you think about like Rust? Rust kind of tapered off because it wasn't really quite ready for prime time. Like it was this cool new idea, people liked it, but then it tapered off, I think, right after launch, right?
And then and now it's one of the biggest games on Steam.
Yeah, and then they kind of fixed it up and like figured out how to optimize the game and make it a better experience. And now it's a great point. Yeah, it's
a very good point, because if Battlefield was like Rust, or you would assume that if a game gets good enough, look at Rainbow Six Siege, right? Rainbow Six Siege
they'll come back,
had a really bad launch, and then it is if your game is good, theoretically, you would assume that would mean that people would come back and it would be like a word of mouth, and people would still play in it. It's one of the reasons why I agree with Tim a bit, is that Titanfall constantly has like it's $2, right, to get in, and then it has like a huge influx of players. There'll be like 30,000 people playing, and then it always dies back down.
If it really was kind of worthy of the mainstream, it would have hit it by now, I think. Because the graphics are good, and it's not like people are playing Titanfall 2 and being like, oh, look at this ugly game. It's like, no, it's competent, and people will play it for the gameplay. And
you could also argue that stuff like Rust and these other titles, Rainbow Six Siege, the thing that separates them from Titanfall is that they are still getting updates and they are getting dev support, which Titanfall isn't.
Yeah.
So that would, I think, also play a part.
Yeah, and there isn't much to go in terms of like, I guess, progression, right? Where like once you do the progression, you're done. And so you can work on your skills and stuff, which is rewarding in itself, but for mainstream, that's not the main draw. It's like it's
so bizarre to me how we've been conditioned, and it's the player's fault, and I think also the dev's fault for doing this, where we're all conditioned now that if the game doesn't have a crazy progression system, people don't find it satisfying. It's like, I saw a post on BattleBit. There's a new BattleBit map, and a lot of the comments were talking about it. One guy said that he likes the current progression system because if there wasn't anything to grind for, then what would be the point?
Yeah, I know.
What do you mean, what would be the point? Playing the game is the point.
Matt,
what is happening?
You sound like you're from 1990s, man. Okay, back when we used to just play games for fun.
It's supposed to just be fun.
You didn't even have stats in games back then. There was no KDR being tracked. There was no unlock system. There was no nothing. You just logged in. Oh, there's no VoIP.
Right.
For the most part, I think you could do VoIP through like certain stuff, but like for the most part, nobody was talking to each other. They were just like, I will play Unreal Tournament now and shoot at people for a bit on jump pads, and then I will stop later.
Yes.
And it was fun and rewarding. I mean, Counter-Strike didn't have any sort of progression system to it initially. Like you just logged on and played matches, and then you would have like matches in your memories that was like, oh man, you remember that match where we clutched it, right? Like,
I still have memories from Battlefield 2 where I was a sniper on Wake Island. I was on one of the peninsulas, and there was a 5-man team group heading towards me. I got every single headshot, and they all dropped, and it felt incredible. And that's what you lived for back then, were those moments, and you remember them.
Yeah. I know. And I need it too. That's the thing, is I feel like I need a progression system too now, because I've been conditioned to it. Or
I was just going to say, I feel you. I played Overwatch because I bought their season pass, or I bought their battle pass, and I was having fun with it. But as soon as I was done with the battle pass, I stopped playing. I'm like, why did I stop playing? Like I was enjoying the game itself. What stopped? And it was because I was just conditioned to go after those rewards, even though at the end of the day, I don't care about them.
Yeah.
Like I was like maybe 1 or 2 skins was neat, but
yeah, we've been heavily conditioned. I blame like the early World of Warcraft days and stuff, where I think Blizzard was doing like real scientific research and like reading papers on like attention span and stuff, and they meticulously design the quest system around attention span and different goals. So they're like tiny goals, medium goals, big goals, lifetime goals. And like the whole game was built around that. And of course it was like the biggest thing anybody had ever seen. And basically every game since then was like, holy crap, we have to have endless progression systems for people because it's super addictive, and it like ties right into like a dopamine hit every time you complete something. And now we're conditioned to wanting that little dopamine hit from a progression system. So if you don't have a game that's just fun, this game's just fun, but it has no progression system, then you're just like, what's the point?
What's the point?
Yeah, and it does suck, it really does. And oh man, it's what you could attribute it to so many games that you stop playing, is you're like, I ran out of things to do, right? The gameplay was fun, but I ran out of the next stage to unlock, or the new skin to get, or whatever, the new little rank icon. That's what Battlefield was for the longest time, was just a rank icon, right?
Yeah,
you didn't get anything
you're right.
else.
Yeah, true.
You're like, I got a star instead of 2 stripes or whatever it was, And
it's moved on over into single player games too, which is just weird. It's just weird. It's like, I don't need a battle pass for a single player game.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't need what are you doing?
Those ones haven't got me too much, because I like the idea of showing off my accomplishments in a multiplayer environment, where if I get the cool gun skin or the cool spaceship in Star Citizen or whatever it is, other people can see it. But if it's single player and it's just like an achievement list, I don't really care.
I like how I'm going to show off to other people. That's why I'm doing it.
Well, it's kind of that multiplayer thing, right? It's like World of Warcraft.
On the catwalk.
You want your golden armor and your flaming mount,
You're supposed to do it for yourself, LevelCap.
You ride into battle on your steed and people go, whoa, is that the Matimi0? I hear he has a flaming horse and, whatever. And I don't know. Right? Yep. You want them to tell legends of your coolness.
I do.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, we'll see what the next Battlefield conjures up with all of that stuff. But I imagine it's going to have a lot of all of that stuff going on. Did you read the news on CD Projekt Red devs unionizing?
I saw an article, but I didn't actually read it. No.
I think it's interesting because their devs are not unionizing. They try and unionize in the States, and you've probably read an article or two about Blizzard really busting the unions, or like infiltrating the company with like people that are like trying to find the unions and seek. It's like, they're doing lots of
sketchy.
Well, I think they hired a company that was literally, their goal was to like bust unions. That's like what they were known for.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they have. Yeah.
So they try and shut down the gaming unions. So this is the first big one I've heard about in a long time, because obviously CD Projekt Red's a huge company. They're going to be making major games over the next 5 years, and so they did, I think it was 3 rounds of layoffs this year already. And so they finally unionized, because the devs were like, we're super stressed out and we're making the most successful games in the world right now. So maybe treat us decently.
Maybe. And I hear CD Projekt Red, while people love them, their work environment wasn't the greatest.
Yeah, there was a lot of crunch time drama leading up to launch. It's so hard to know how to treat the game industry fairly, or how to view it fairly, because you look at, say, Baldur's Gate 3, and what's the company that made them? I forgot their name.
Larian Studios.
Larian. Weren't they like on the verge of bankruptcy before they launched that game? Like, I think
Baldur's Gate 3? No, I don't think so.
Before they launched it. I think during the development, I think they almost went bankrupt or something.
Maybe I've heard, but I don't know what the timeline is. Okay. But continue.
Okay. Well, I think there's numerous stories throughout the game industry of like developers almost going bankrupt trying to hit their vision, and then gamers are like, and then there's also stories about employees being asked to work harder and all this stuff. And I think as a consumer, we don't realize the competitive environment of the game industry quite so much and how much dev time and work it takes to achieve certain goals. And I think there's, it's not cut and dry, like producers are bad, devs are good. It's more of a like industry is difficult and
it's really hard.
Yeah.
To juggle all of it. And because it's not like the thing is you, let's say you don't, there's always going to be crunch, right? There's always going to be crunch. You're going to have deadlines. You're going to have to, in some point, a couple of days a week or one day a week, you might have to stay a little bit longer. Like that's just, there's deadlines you have to meet. You're never going to be able to completely remove it from the industry. But at the same time, you don't want to have it for months on end. But how do you...
And you also don't want to fire people who can't do the crunch hours, right? Like, say you have a person who is a family man and has kids that they got to take care of. Okay, well, they can't put in the late hours because they got to go pick up their kids from school or whatever. Like, are you going to fire that guy because you look at your little stat sheet and you're like, well, Ted didn't work overtime at all during crunch. So, I mean, I think we got to let Ted go. It gets into pretty bad situations there. And that's what I did as corporate work before YouTube stuff. And that was rampant everywhere, right? As they would look at the numbers and they'd be like, oh, so-and-so didn't sacrifice
And of course
everything.
they want to maximize how much money they make. And while they could have hired more people or they could have delayed it, then that would mean maybe potentially less money for them. And it always needs to be more. They want as much money as possible. Yeah. But also it's not a guarantee that the money will be there. And that's what's got to be so hard is that, you could give your devs more time and then they could release it and it could have been, because it could have just been nothing.
For as many success stories as there are out there where they're like, oh, these guys made billions, there's probably 3 stories of the companies going under trying to make it. And
way more probably. The amount of games that get started and then don't go anywhere and you never hear about them are probably very high.
I think we are generally trained to view big companies as bad though, because you get the stories like Bobby Kotick from Blizzard, Activision Blizzard. He takes like these bonuses. He gets paid like $200 million a year sometimes, and then they fire all these people. And you're like, okay,
that's just ridiculous.
Yeah. There's just
like, it's like, are you doing that much to earn that? I mean, I know your job has got to be hard.
There's nobody on the planet that deserves $200 million. In general, but aside from you, Matt, you put in the hours, man. We know your sacrifices. Yeah, I mean, yearly.
I take $200 million a year. Are you kidding me?
Of course, I would too. We're greedy people. We're humans. We want the money. But the fact is that we set up a system that lets this dude take $200 million and then fire a whole bunch of people because they're like, oh, you're not doing good enough work or whatever. We need to axe this division. You're like, yeah, you could have just given yourself a smaller bonus.
But they're making the hard choices level.
I know, man. Yeah, it's got to be tough on them to fire that. Imagine the emotional stress of firing all those people. I hope they can afford a good therapist with that $200 million.
$200 million.
They probably don't need one.
As they're crying on their yacht.
Yeah, I think you got to be a sociopath in the first place to make it that high on the totem pole.
Probably.
Yeah.
I would actually legitimately feel bad if I had to do all that. I would feel terrible having to fire people.
Yeah, you'd be stressed out of your mind. Yeah, no, it's not fun to be a manager and have to like give people performance reviews and like keep them in line and stuff.
And then having to let people go, even if you might like them.
Yeah. You're like, I like this as a person. This person is a person, but as a worker, I don't like them, or whatever.
Or even you just have to cut them because you just have to.
Finances. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to follow the CD Projekt Red unionization thing because obviously unions can slow things down for people and like
they can.
Yeah, there's controversy on either side of it, but it'll be interesting to see how
there are bad unions.
Of course, they've become big problems in the past, and that's a big part of the U.S. history is busting unions and like. And getting rid of them because they had a lot of control. That at times they were the most powerful groups in the country that could control a lot of stuff. So you're like, okay, power corrupts on any side of the equation, really. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. I know, yeah, but it does feel like game devs are one of the more almost abused industries now, where it's just like the hours suck. There's so much demand there's so much interest in being a dev that they can kind of treat their employees like garbage because they're like, oh, we'll just get another one because everybody
Well, you have
wants
these
to
college
work on video
kids
games.
coming straight out of school, hyped on video games, and they're passionate. They want to get involved.
Dude. That was me.
And then they get into a position where they're not paid as much if they went into another sector, tech sector, and then they just can throw them around because they can. They know that there's going to be more college kids, more people that are hyped, get involved, and it just churns them through.
Yeah. If you get into programming for video games versus like rocket science or electronics or whatever, like it's
or
usually,
just other software development, working for Microsoft, but not their games, working in their software engineering departments.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Well,
you check out Assassin's Creed at all?
Only videos and trailers. I haven't played it.
Okay. I beat it.
Yeah. You said
did
last
beat it.
time I think that you're getting into it or you're gonna play it.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
It was my very first Assassin's Creed that was like the old style. Legitimately, I've only played 2 Assassin's Creed, so that's not really all that fair to say.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
Yeah.
But it's very basic. It's very, very basic. It was cool to parkour around.
Yeah.
But it was so clunky. You would try to tell your character to jump forward.
Yeah.
But then because of what magical reasons, he would jump off the side of the building into a flower pit. And you're like, no. Yeah. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to move this way.
That's always been my issue with Assassin's Creed games is you're like, I'm the most badass assassin that ever lived. Let me just swing my sword. No, don't jump off the building. Okay. Well, I hit A instead of B, or the prompt.
Or even you press the right button.
Yeah.
You could even press the right button and it's still like, no. There was a lot of moments where I would try to do something and I would be attempting to do it properly, pressing the right buttons, aiming the right way, and my character just would not figure it out. And it's got to be hard with how many different parkour ledges it has to did you really want to go that way, or did you actually were you trying to go down? Because there's only 2 buttons.
Picking between like 5 options, and it's like, I hope this is what they wanted to do when they hit A as opposed to the other thing.
When they're hitting A forward, are they trying to jump off onto the street, or are they trying to jump onto the ledge that's over there?
Yeah,
it's got to be really hard to develop that. When
it
works,
they're going to come
really
up
fun.
with a new system eventually, where it'll be some sort of new smart system or some system that highlights the ledge or the specific thing that you're going to do before you hit the button.
Just plug it into my brain so I can just tell it through that not telepathically, but that way it's like I'm going to run. I can look and see, and I know my character's going to jump because I'm telling it to jump in my brain.
Exactly. You need that meta chip, man.
Yeah. Hook me in. Hook me in, Elon.
It's coming. I don't think we need chips, but it is coming. Like, what's the meta headsets or the meta interface that Zuckerberg was talking about that they're developing is based on, it's like you think about like pressing your fingers together to perform an action, but you don't actually need to press your fingers together. Apparently the neural impulse of thinking about wanting to do it, you can train the system off of that. So basically it's weird.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't need a chip or anything. It can just sense the little electrical something. I don't know, man.
It can sense my thoughts.
Kind of. So a lot
of terrified. You know how terrified that is we're gonna have these devices and they're gonna sense our thoughts, and then they're gonna every part of us is going to be optimized and sold off to people.
Yeah, the data. Here's Matt's brain data. Yeah. How do we manipulate Matt even more? Based on this data?
Difficult. It really wouldn't be that difficult. Yeah. Let's be real.
Yeah. Yeah, so how the device works is so I guess when you move your muscles, those signals are they're actual electric signals or something, and it can sense those easier. So if you train the device around muscle movement, you can actually activate the device without having to move your muscles as you start to, I guess it's like, so if you think about pressing your fingers together, like you can think about pressing your fingers before you actually give them the impulse, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I think it can be that sensitive where it can actually pick up the thought of wanting to move your muscles as opposed to actually moving. So that's how I think they're planning to control a lot of the menus and a lot of the interface with a completely hands-free device. Okay. Which is cool.
That is cool.
Maybe they can integrate. I'm sure that'll be integrated to gaming, because as soon as that comes out for like some augmented reality glasses, okay, well, I've got a Tobii hooked up to my monitor, which is an eye tracker, right? Well, okay, my headphone will come with like a little neural pathway sensor, and it'll just put a little thing on my temple, and then we'll be playing Battlefield, and I'll think grenade or whatever, and it'll check a grenade for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that would be cool if it would legitimately work that way.
What if you didn't have to left click to fire? Like, because there is a micro amount of movement, right? When you press the button, it can push off your sniper shot or something if you're trying to get that perfect shot, and the actual clicking motion messes up your fluid motion as you're trying to track or something like that. You could just think like fire while you're playing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Recoil down.
I actually think they have the tools to do that right now. If you wanted to do it, you could get like a little third-party thing and keybind it and stuff like that.
I believe it.
It'd probably be a pain in the butt, because then
probably wouldn't work very well.
I'm going to try it, Matt. That's my next YouTube video right there.
Do it.
Playing Battlefield with my brain, man.
Did you know that there are some people who don't have an inner dialogue?
Are those the people that just speak all their thoughts all the time?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really know that. No, that seems insane to me. Like,
yeah,
well,
so
what do you do in the shower when you're like thinking? Like
nothing.
What?
Yeah, it's just
do they
nothing.
do they have to sing or something?
No, you just nothing. Like it's not that they don't have any thoughts. It's that they don't, when you think to yourself, I need to go brush my teeth, or I need to do these things throughout the day, or I can't believe I said that to Meredith in high school.
Yeah.
What
did you say to Meredith?
Well, that's the thing. It was not what I said. It's what I didn't say. You know, it was the moment. It was the moments that I didn't spend time with Meredith. That's besides the point.
I hope she's watching this right now, so you can
she's not
rekindle
Meredith.
that magic.
Meredith doesn't actually exist. That's just a name.
There wasn't somebody in your age range named Meredith, or it's kind of like an older.
It is, yeah. Anyways, so they don't have that inner dialogue, English dialogue, or whatever language you speak. It's more the way that because it's really hard to picture that. No, it's not.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No. Yeah, no, it's fine. The way that I picture it is when you go to, let's say, tie your shoes, you don't think to yourself, I'm going to go tie my shoes. You just do it.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need an inner dialogue to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of how they just work at all times. Also, what would happen if you didn't... Now I'm trying to think,
am I that kind of person? Now I'm trying to think, do I have an inner dialogue? Because I don't know if my thoughts come out as like, I should get groceries now.
Can you say, hi, Matimi0 in your head right now?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can say that.
They can't do that. They can't do that.
I don't understand.
I know, it's weird. It's weird.
Is this like a 1% of the population or less or something?
I don't know. I have no idea what the percentage is.
Like a weird, freaky anomaly in like.
Well, think about it. Where if you grew up and you didn't know language, how would you think? Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really trippy actually. Because language is you
use language. It's wild, right?
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. That's interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, you'd have different cognitive imagery to like represent the things that language might otherwise represent.
Because you still have thoughts. You're not just a blank slate up there. Just absolutely nothing going on. But it's pretty crazy. I saw a post on that online a couple days ago, and I thought it was just insane because it's completely different from my entire reality.
Yeah. That is fascinating, dude. I want to like hear more. I love all that kind of stuff. You can just like get into these like deep the more you learn about the
Rabbit
human
hole.
mind and stuff, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many cool things about it. Like I had a phase where I was just like watching all this stuff on like mushrooms and psilocybin because they had that Netflix documentary on fungi. Super cool. And like this dude cured he had a speech impediment, a stutter, his whole life. And he like his first time doing shrooms, he just thought the whole time like don't stutter, and he never had a speech impediment ever again after that. And I'm like, wow, like they're like talking about like unlocking like neurogenesis and like remapping your neural pathways. And I was like, oh, that's so cool that you can do crazy stuff like that. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's pretty dope.
The mind is pretty impressive.
It is. I'm like, how can I get better at video games, man? How can I
de-age yourself? That was my first thought, is that if we can hook it up to our brains, my reaction time is going to be even slower to these Zoomers who are just, well, it's not going to be Zoomers anymore. It's going to be alphas who are just like their neural pathways are just lightning fast, and you can't keep up because they're just on another level.
I'm for it, man. I'll put the chip in there, man. I'm not gonna lie. I'll do it.
Yeah, no, hook me up to that internet. Yeah,
I like technology
nothing bad could
too
happen.
much. I like technology way too much, dude. I'm always, whenever some company's like, here's the latest, I'm like, buy it now. Hook it up.
It's mine.
Let's try it.
Devour
it's better. HDR, it's better. Higher refresh rate, it's better. Lower latency, it's better. Give it all to me now. So if some chip comes out and they're like, you can play games with like because
in your sleep.
So okay, the visual, the hand-eye coordination latency or reaction time for on average, I think it's 200 milliseconds, and then like high-end athletes that are well trained are like 150. I think that's like cutting edge fast for like reaction times for things. So if you've seen the like latency tests online where a color, it'll be a red square and it turns green, and
you have to press a button.
Yeah, press a button, click your mouse, and it'll measure your reaction time. Well, I think most people, so average reaction time would be 200, and then as you get older, that gets to like 250, and then beyond there. And then like super fast is like 150. And that's like if you're really keyed in, or your brain works better at those specific tasks or something. Auditory reaction time is actually faster than that. So if you hear a sound and you need to react to it, it's quicker. So yeah, a lot of people don't know that. So having good in-game audio, right? If somebody's like sneaking up behind you, you should react to that quicker than actually seeing a shadow or something in your peripheral vision, right?
Fascinating.
Yeah, so that's cool. So I'm like, okay, well, but still 150 milliseconds, even for like really fast reaction time, is slow.
So I just see the entire game in echolocation.
Yeah. Yeah, just put on a blindfold, you'll play better, Matt. That's what I'm telling you to do.
I mean, there are some times where that actually probably would be better for me. In some games, I'm like, bro, I suck. Like in the Call of Duty beta, I had matches where I just got dumpstered on.
Yeah, COD is tough when you're not used to COD. Like they just destroy you.
Also, I think is I was using mouse and keyboard with the input lag, and they're all on controllers with aim assist and
using the meta weapons and dolphin diving
which is fine. Crap. I got nothing against it, and I think skill-based matchmaking kicks in every once in a while. It's like, oh, you did well those last couple of games, and now you're a little bit higher. Yeah, here's a bit of a challenge. Yeah. So.
But I'll take one that's plugged right into my neural cortex, man. So if it can send the visual signal to the chip, and then the chip sends it to the computer, man. Oh man, can you imagine having to get Bluetooth to connect to your brain? That would suck.
Oh my god! All you hear is the pairing noise in your head.
Imagine when your thoughts are like on the wrong. They're like on a Bluetooth speaker somewhere else in your house, and they're like, Matt, your thoughts are coming out on the speaker.
Oh god!
Oh god! Oh god!
Oh, I wasn't actually thinking those things. It was a joke.
My brain doesn't work like that. I'm sorry. That's good. All your dog costume thoughts out there for everyone to hear. You know.
Bro, I gotta Google this. I have literally no idea what this dog costume is. Let me Google it right now.
It's
dog
very funny.
Costume.
Yeah.
16.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you'll find it. It'll be like.
Oh my god! Yeah, I have seen this. Yeah. Oh my lord!
I
Yeah.
mean, you've seen it from the inside of the costume, but you never saw.
Right. I mean,
the
yeah,
photos
but
people took of you.
because that's me. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't tell because it's so magnificent.
Yeah, isn't that
God,
a
that thing
wild?
looks-
Isn't that a wild fantasy to have? Like, this dude's dream is to be an animal,
Is to be a dog.
to be a dog, a border collie, I think, or whatever he is.
I don't know why it's $15,000 though. Like it's good, but is it?
Yeah, it's a good costume, but is it $16,000 good costume? Like,
I wouldn't pay that much for it.
what would you pay for it, Matt?
Not that much.
Oh man, that'd be great. I'm gonna invite you over to a costume party. You show up in a dog costume, like what the? Matt, oh god.
I had no idea. I mean, you've been making fun of me this entire time.
Yeah, I won't shame you. Okay, man. Okay, that's taking pup play to the next level, right there.
I'd shame myself a little bit.
Yeah.
I would.
So, I watched the Gran Turismo movie, and
The one that was based off the game, right?
yeah, based on a true story about a guy who played the heck out of Gran Turismo.
Okay.
And then I assume it was basically a marketing ploy by Nissan to, I guess, collaborate with Gran Turismo and Nissan and be like, hey, we can take the best video game players at this video game and put them in actual cars and they'll be good racers. And a lot of them were, apparently.
Wow.
Like, really good. Yeah. So the movie itself is, I wouldn't call it like A+ film. Like it's Neil Blomkamp or whatever his name is, and he's kind of a mediocre director. But the racing's cool in it, and the story's true. And you're like, that's awesome that this dude, like, he just really loved racing cars. Obviously, becoming a professional racer is incredibly expensive. So it's usually and it's usually like a grandfathered in thing where it's like, well, your parents were racers and now they're super wealthy because
they're just really rich.
Yeah, or they're really rich and they can afford to buy you a race car to compete and then you can get good at racing. And it's like, well, how else do you get good at racing? Well, video games is the other way to get good at racing. And
with all these sim games.
Yeah, the fact that Gran Turismo, that they did it first with this one and they had actual sim racers out there racing in the what's that famous French race that goes on forever?
I have no idea.
Le Mans, I think it's called Le Mans. It's like a 24-hour race. And
wow.
Yeah, they switch out drivers periodically throughout the race, but it's the same car for 24 hours. It's wild.
Wow.
So, yeah, they had a team of sim racers in the Le Mans and they did really well. I think they placed like third or something, which is unheard of.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's just such a cool story. You're just like, that's fascinating. And it's kind of the dream because baseball, basketball, soccer, those are inexpensive sports to try. I mean, football is a little pricey for the stuff, but you know what I mean? They're not like, you're not sacrificing, you're not selling the family farm to like fund your child's development in whatever sport. You can just buy them a baseball glove and a ball and they can go out there and play baseball.
Yeah, not everyone can buy, even if it's like, you know, F1, it's because those are ridiculously expensive. Like no one's affording that.
Yeah, nobody practices in F1. You all start in go-karting racing.
Right.
But those are still expensive. It's still.
But even going from that to normal cars to racing cars to whatever, like it's all unbelievably expensive.
Yeah. The tires alone. I have a friend who does racing a little bit, like just on tracks for fun, and he goes through thousands and thousands of dollars in tires, you know, every year, and I'm just like, whew, you know, like, and that's just like as a hobby. That's not like racing competitively all the time. So, I mean, just even on that level, it's crazy pricey. But I love the idea of this because it's like it's an entryway to find good talent out there. Because obviously you're not hitting the whole talent pool of people who are good at racing if you're only picking from the people who can afford it, can fund a go-kart team for like 5 years. You know, that's super expensive for them to do and a huge time commitment and all this other stuff. And so, yeah, I like that idea a lot because it translates apparently pretty well. Not perfectly because...
Well enough that it worked.
Yeah. there's a stamina part to it because when you're in a car,
a physicality to it.
Yeah, some of the like F1 cars, I think you hit like 7 Gs in turns or something like that, you know? So like if you're racing for an hour or more and you're like constantly, yeah, they come out of the cars and there was a race this weekend in Qatar, I think, and it was like super hot and like all the drivers were sweating before the race even started. I was like, oh, this is gonna suck. And like they came out of the cars at the end of the race and they're like, they just laid down, some of them, like they're waiting for their interviews. They're just like on the ground, just like not moving. And I'm like, these guys are super fit. Like there's no fat on them at all.
It
all
is
they
a
do
sport.
Is work out. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah. Yeah. You can't just go from sim and then do that and be fine.
No.
You got to do some serious conditioning. But yeah, I recommend the movie in terms of like, it's fun. It's a fun racing movie to watch. And the story is like kind of awesome. It's the dream, really. And like, some people got to live the dream. I hope more people get to do that stuff.
That's incredible. That's really cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, especially now that you're sim racing, Matt. Just saying.
Well, it's funny you say that because while this podcast comes out every Wednesday, it is Monday right now, and the new Forza Motorsports comes out in a couple hours. So,
ooh, is that what you're playing? Is that what you're playing tonight?
Yeah, it's my first dabble with sim racing.
Yeah.
Because I played arcade ones, but like recently I've been playing a lot of motor. No.
Yeah.
I thought about it, but
it was you buying something for your computer.
Yeah,
so,
and as soon as that happens, I get really hesitant. So I know. If it's not a nice book, I'm like, do I really need this?
Oh my god! Just buy that nice. Was it like Fanatic or Fantech wheel that's got like force feedback and stuff, you know? So
a lot of them, almost all of them have the feedback.
Okay, yeah. I guess that was back when I was looking at some sim wheels like 10 years ago. That was a feature, and now it's like, yeah, okay, they all have that.
Yeah, okay, big man. Yeah. There's a lot of wheels out there. There's a lot of options. So, but they're a bit pricey.
I could see myself getting into that, man. It does look fun and just like hitting those lines perfectly and doing a nice pass in a racing game. It's like chef's kiss. It's a good feeling, you know.
It is a good time. I've been playing a lot of The Crew. And it's fun, but there's so many. It's so arcadey where I'll try like slowing down on a corner and try to make it, you know, a great corner. And I could be doing it poorly. I don't know. But then I'll see people like literally going like 1,000 miles an hour, slamming into the wall, and then just, you know, flying out. I'm like, I slowed down for that. Shouldn't I be rewarded? And they're like, later, bitch. I'm like, what do I?
Yeah.
So to play,
so they're basically exploiting the game to like actually go faster, right? Because you can use the wall to bounce
it can
off
work
of.
sometimes, and other times it doesn't. So
did you
like if you hit a wall, it slows you down a lot, but sometimes you just get lucky.
Did you see? I think it was this year, maybe I want to say like 4 or 5 months ago, a NASCAR driver. He used the wall technique.
Oh, that was a long time ago, but yeah.
Was it a long time ago?
It wasn't just a couple of months ago. It was at least more than a year. But yeah, go on.
Okay. That's my old memory for you. But
yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, he used the wall technique to get around like 5 dudes on like one of the last laps or something.
Yep.
And in the interview, he's like, yeah, you could do that in the old like N64 NASCAR game. So I thought I'd give it a try. I'm like, you're insane. You're insane.
And it was incredibly dangerous too.
So had any one of those barriers not been lined up properly, or had the force of his car pushed a barrier back half an inch, he would have caught, and the whole car would have just like exploded.
Would have flipped. Yeah. But it worked. He was able to go pedal to the metal. He didn't need to slow down at all, and he just went.
Yeah. Needless to say, it has not become the go-to strategy for NASCAR because other people want to live, I guess, you know.
Well, I think they also banned it too.
Probably.
Like as soon as it happened, they're like, you can't do that again.
Yeah.
At least I would hope that they would.
Yeah, well, it would suck because other drivers would be like, I don't want to do that because I could die, but now everybody's doing it, so we all have to.
So I have to.
Yeah, we got to race around the outside like maniacs.
Also defeats the purpose of the entire sport, right? Like the entire thing is to take your corners at an appropriate speed built for the car, not put up, because you could put up bumpers, right? And then just go as fast as you can.
Little wheels on the sides of their cars that like would go up against the walls, right? And be like, oh, it's my side wheels.
Right.
It's my cornering wheels.
So I'm excited for, and the reason I didn't get the wheel is I've never played a more sim. It's not completely sim, but it's
Forza's legit. Yeah.
It's more so than the others. Kind of dip my toes in, see if I like it. And if I really do like it, then at that point be like, yeah, I'll get a wheel.
Yeah. Well, you got to get the pedals if you get the wheel too. Like,
yeah, they usually
get
do.
A wheel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, I hope you do get I hope you do get a wheel, because that kind of stuff is cool, man. It just adds to the experience so much more. And then you'll need a VR helmet too, so that you can like look over and see all the guys coming up on your sides and stuff. Yeah.
And then I gotta get the cockpit where you like lean back and
where it's got the hydraulics. There. Yeah, and it's like bumping you around. You're like,
Then you're spending tens upon tens of thousands of dollars on your setup.
Well, and you need 3 curved 45-inch monitors also to like
of course.
Completely encircle you, or like 180 degree encircle you, so you can be there. And then there's a guy who has a YouTube channel. I was watching his stuff maybe a month ago, and he's got a sim setup that's like that. It's got all the hydraulics. He's got 3 giant curved monitors all around him, all this steering wheel stuff. He also hooked up a fan to it that blows faster the faster you're going. I was like, that's awesome.
So stupid.
It's stupid, but awesome at the same time. Yeah. So you feel an actual sense of like, I'm moving faster, because I mean, really, you don't have anything. You don't have the G-forces. It can lean you back a little to kind of make you feel like you're being pushed back, but you're not. So
there was a YouTuber that took that to the extreme, where he just had like these cannons of water that would like fly at him, and he was like in like a wind tunnel. And it was
what kind of sim was he playing?
He wasn't playing a sim. He was just it wasn't. Yeah, he does stuff that's over the top. This is a guy who built a tunnel underneath his home without getting approval of the government.
What's his name? I like that guy. He's fun.
Yeah, he's great. And so he did something like that.
Though. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he kind of walks the line of, this may not be 100% safe, but I'm going to do it because it's cool.
I don't think anything he does is safe.
No, yeah. I think you might be right. But
yeah. He was like, when he's building his tunnel, there's like cave-ins, and he's like, whoa, and you're just like, all right, like that seems dangerous. And he makes his own. Because it is. Yeah, yeah. I do like that guy though. He's wacky. I'm like, how do you get to be like this? But like, it's cool, man. I wish I could be that enthusiastic about digging a tunnel for like 3 years, because that's like how long it took him.
It's taken a long time. And then how do you think to yourself, you know what? I'm gonna dig a tunnel underneath my house. Like, who just thinks I'm gonna do it? And then I'm gonna make it into a YouTube video, and it's gonna be incredibly successful.
Yeah. Speaking of YouTube videos, I think today, which would be Monday, but Wednesday when the podcast comes out, YouTube started taking away ad blockers. Basically, if you have an ad blocker on YouTube, it'll stop you from watching the video. And I think you get like a warning or a couple, and if you don't remove it, then you like get either a ban or like a temporary ban or something. It's pretty, wow. Yeah, it seems pretty severe, to be honest.
Well, I feel like this happens every so often on certain platforms where people, like it happened on Twitch, where Twitch was able to figure out how to work around the ad blocker and be like, hey, you're using an ad blocker, get wrecked. And now ad blockers are still working. So is this a permanent solution, or is this kind of like, hey, we figured it out for now, but in a couple of weeks, this isn't going to be an issue anymore?
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. From what I was reading on Reddit, most people seem to not be able to get around it. Like there were... And some people were saying there's some false positives where they're like, I don't even have an ad blocker, and it like turned off my thing. So hopefully that's not as big of an issue as it sounds. Or maybe
of course they hate ad blockers. Like,
yeah.
It's a constant battle between them, because like that's the way they make that's literally where all the revenue comes from is the advertisements.
Yeah. No, it is wild to see how many people were hating on YouTube for this, because you're like, do you have any understanding of basic economics? Like, you want the stuff for free, but it's not free to make or distribute. So like, do you want to pay them money? No, you don't want to pay them money. So do you want to watch an ad? No, you don't want to watch an ad. Like, what do you want to do to make up for the cost of having high definition video streamed to you whenever you want at a moment's notice? It's like, you gotta pay for it some way. And ads really isn't too bad of a deal considering what you get. Or you
Though
could
I will
buy
say
the
they
YouTube
get pretty
Premium.
extreme. They get like I literally clicked on a video that was 1 second long. I got an unskippable ad for a 1 second video. 1 second, and I gotta watch an ad? Like, what is this, YouTube? Come on. Give me a freebie.
The system is not good.
No,
it's not dialed in. And what bugs me so much about YouTube is like, okay, Amazon's figured it out with Twitch. You got your Amazon Prime and you get like a Prime sub and you get all these cool benefits of having a service that's really good for ordering stuff off of Amazon. And it also benefits you on Twitch. Okay, so what does Google have or YouTube have? YouTube has YouTube TV, which is completely separate for some reason from YouTube Premium. And why
really?
Yeah. I believe so. Last time I checked, I don't get YouTube TV with you. I think they're two different services.
Products,
and then on top of that, if you have YouTube Premium, you don't get like a free monthly sub to somebody, as far as I know. I don't think you get that kind of stuff on YouTube.
I don't think so either.
You just basically get around ads and you can download videos, which you don't actually get the file for it, but you can save a video for watching later if you go on an airplane or something like that. But I mean, that's really like lame feature sets for premium. Like, how come they're not rolling it into like making it a partnership with YouTube TV and just being like, hey, if you get YouTube TV, now you can watch YouTube videos without ads? Because premium viewers on YouTube net me as a content creator a lot more money. I think it's like a significant percentage more, like 15%. And even if it was bundled, 15 times more or something. It's crazy.
Even if it was bundled, they would be making more money too, because it's not like you're getting, like, ads are nice, but it's only like pennies for every person that they're watching.
Music. Jason said it's music as well. If you want to listen to a playlist, that's really nice. So you don't have to listen to the ads in between playlists. But yeah, nonetheless, it's like, it's not comparable to a lot of the other subscription stuff out there. And then I feel like more people would sign up for it if you could watch YouTube content without ads, if there was just a little bit more stuff that came with it, or if you got the YouTube TV or whatever, you know? So yeah, it's just kind of weird. It's funny seeing so many people argue against the ad thing, but being like, give me my free content also.
How much is YouTube Premium?
I don't remember. I think they bumped the price. Maybe $12 a month or something. It started at like $7, I think.
$12? Okay, well now I see why people are hesitant. Like $12?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you're always on YouTube.
Oh shit, it's more now. $14 a month. No way.
$14 a month for YouTube Premium?
Wow. Yeah, different in different countries, like 12 Canadian or whatever. But yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah, so it's like, I mean, I've looked on it before. A very small percentage of my views come from premium subscribers, you know? And you're like, well, I feel like YouTube could bump that number up. Their conversion rate on people watching on YouTube is really lame. It's like combine it with some of your other Google services, but for whatever reason, Google is like, no, we're all independent. We can't combine things together. And you're like, okay, sure.
If YouTube Premium was like $5, I'd buy that, you know? Yeah. $5 seems way more reasonable for just getting rid of ads. Like that way, I'm not having to watch ads. They're probably making way more money off of it because I'm not watching enough ads per month to get you $5 from just me, right? So they're going to make a profit. And that also helps the content creators that I'm watching because now they get a little bit more too. Not a lot more, but a little bit more. You said $14 a month?
Yeah, I mean that's like a video stream. That's like Disney Plus or whatever. You know, I don't know what they're charging now.
They're getting more expensive too. Everything's just more expensive.
But at the same time, it's just annoying to me that there's YouTube TV and YouTube Premium and they're different. Yeah. And you're like, just combine them, you know? Just combine them together and you'll get more people on board with it. But whatever, that's inside baseball stuff. It is just annoying. I do find it very annoying when people complain about YouTube going after ad blockers. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, like, stop. Do you have any understanding of the economy or that like stuff doesn't just materialize for free? Like they got to pay for their servers and content creators aren't going to make all this content if they can't do it full time. So like, I mean, yeah.
I mean, I get why they're annoyed, but I also understand where YouTube's coming from. It's almost as if I can sympathize with both sides.
But the unskippable in 1 second is bad. So they gotta fix that.
I was like, what is this? Like, I didn't know the video was 1 second long, and then the video played and it was 1 second. I was like, did I literally just get an unskippable for this? Are you kidding me right now, YouTube?
Yeah. I don't like the weird little rules around ads where like you got to hit 8 minutes to like get mid rolls or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, why don't you just base it on like average viewer watch time or something and just do it dynamically as opposed to like a hard cutoff, and then you've got a video that's 7 minutes long and you're like, oh crap. Well, let me talk about how about the weather? How's that weather today?
How about them Yankees?
And then your retention time goes down because you're fluffing the end of the video. So you're making worse content to hit what YouTube wants you to do. And it's just like, there's better ways to do it, YouTube. Do it the better way, okay? It's very
my
obvious.
way.
Yeah, my way. You reading or watching anything good?
I'm currently watching, the shows that I'm watching right now are Billions, which has been a lot of fun. It's about a bunch of billionaires being horrible, and it's the story between a billionaire, Bobby Axelrod, and Chuck. Can't remember his last name, but Chuck Rhodes. Mm-hmm. And they basically battle each other. One is works for the government, lawyer, and the other one is doing shady business deals. And it's fun. It's kind of cool to see these unbelievably intelligent people battling back and forth, but also making really stupid decisions along the way.
Is it a true story or just
no
fiction?
It's pure fiction. Yeah,
that sounds fun.
Yeah.
What is it on?
I'm watching it on Amazon right now.
Okay,
so Amazon Prime. Yeah,
cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah,
I started watching Beckham last night. I think it's a 4-part documentary. On David Beckham. And,
I figured.
Well, yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
He is pretty famous, but it's been a little while since his heyday. Pretty good so far. I'm only 1 episode in, but it is funny seeing. There's a little meme that came out of it about him kind of putting Posh Spice in her place.
I saw that on.
Yeah, it's very funny. Yeah. She's like, oh, I'm from like a working class family. And he's just like opens the door. He's like, tell the truth.
No, you're not.
Yeah, tell the truth. I was like, what car
was your first
dad
car?
drive you to school in? Yeah. What car was it? And she's like, well, it's complicated. It's not a simple answer. And he's like, what car did your dad drive you to school in? And she's like, well, in the 80s, it was a Rolls Royce. He's like, thank you. And just like closes the door on the interview. You're like, oh man, that's so funny. Like he just trolls his family. But
well, it's like, I kind of get where she's coming from, where you don't like, no one likes to think like I had it easy growing up. Right. Yeah. But some people just don't realize how easy they had it. And that they did come from a very privileged upbringing, which is fine.
Yeah.
Just you don't just embrace it. It's like
you
were
life
lucky.
Can be tough as a wealthy person for sure, especially a rich kid who like, maybe doesn't have as much time with their parents or something because they're working or doing business stuff all the time, whatever. But that doesn't make you working class, right?
Right.
If you drive a Rolls Royce, it's not working class.
Everyone has their own struggles.
Yeah. It was funny though, but so far I'm really liking the documentary. It's quite good.
Nice.
I'm just getting into soccer stuff lately. It's very weird. I don't know.
Ted Lasso, this now.
Yeah, I'm watching Wrexham still, which is still very good. Highly recommend Wrexham.
Okay.
And trying to get through Ashoka, but it feels like a chore. I think I'm on episode 4 or 5. Yeah.
Because everything I've heard is that it's the best show ever of Star Wars.
I don't think you can trust Star Wars reviews anymore because people who still like Star Wars at this point, I don't know, man. I just don't know. But maybe it gets better, but every episode feels like I just feel like I'm doing it as like a history lesson where I'm like, I need to know the lore in case something good in Star Wars happens later. Then I'll know the backstory. But that
doesn't feel like the right reason then.
Yeah, all the characters are very wooden. There's no fun personalities in it. I don't know. It's like the characters that were more animated and fun as actual animated characters that are now live action characters. don't have any of that same kind of like quippy funness to them anymore. They're just kind of like these wooden characters. I'm like, what's happening here? You took fun.
What did you do?
You just sucked the fun right out of it. And then there's a bunch of stuff where the plot armor is so thick in the show where
extra thick.
Yeah, like their tactics don't make any sense. They'll just do things in it where they'll just run in towards enemy gunfire, and you'll be watching. You're like, I know they're not going to die because they're the main characters, so of course they're not going to die. But why are they doing this? Like everybody watching is like, this is a bad idea. This is not a good idea. And of course they almost die, and it's just by chance that they don't die. And you're like, but why did you do that in the first place? You didn't have to. There's alternate tactical options available to you, but you're like, let's do the dumb thing. And just at a certain point in my brain, the thing is I get least interested during the action scenes because the action is so unimaginative, I think. And so
that happens to me for most shows now. Like when I was younger, I really liked the action, but now that I'm older, it really takes a lot to impress me and to get into it because it's just the like intermission in between the stuff that I'm actually interested in, which is the characters and the story. I haven't seen it myself, but I did see some people talking about it online where the choreography was kind of rough, where she has two lightsabers and there's multiple times where she could just use the second lightsaber to take someone out. It's like, why are you using both to attack and block when you could just block and attack, like block, boom. Like it's the whole point of it.
They used to I can appreciate John Wick or something where like Keanu spends like months and months training and learning all this cool stuff and everything, and then you see him on screen, you're like, wow, like he's really good. Although John Wick movies do get a little boring after a while, but the when you're watching it, you can at least appreciate the choreography, right? And like I can't remember the last time I thought Star Wars choreography was good. It was probably the like Phantom Menace or like the original that scene basically. And then after that, it's all just been like they'll do close-up cuts, that typical action scene way of editing where if you get the camera close enough and you just sort of sing singular motions at a time and you cut them together, you're like, they're fighting. Yeah, basically. Do you remember the Lord of the Rings show? Like incredibly high production quality, and then as soon as they get into like a sword fight, the camera cuts in real tight, and you're like, oh yeah, the actors didn't do any good choreography for this, so all the sword fighting sucks. So now you have to like shoot it up close, and they tried not to do that too much in this show, but the choreography just doesn't really meet.
It's hard.
Yeah, you got to put in a lot of time. It probably costs
lots more money.
Yeah, a lot of money. The actors have to dedicate months of their lives to like training and figuring all that stuff out, and a lot of them just aren't doing it. I'll say the visuals and the special effects are very good.
I probably will watch it eventually because I've heard there was a comparison that Andor is one of the best like sci-fi shows, but Ashoka is one of the best Star Wars shows. I was like, okay. So a lot of people are saying that it's more Star Wars-esque than it was Andor because Andor didn't have the thing that made it Star Wars, which is the Jedi and the Force. And it's like, is that really what Star Wars is though? Because I feel like it's much more than that. And when you boil it down to just space magic, you kind of lose some of the magic.
If you keep it as only Jedi and lightsabers, you really limit yourself creatively.
You really do.
Like Han
and we've
Solo,
already had plenty of those stories.
Yeah, and Han Solo is everybody's like favorite character from the original trilogy, and he didn't have a lightsaber or the Force or anything. He was just a fun character that people liked. He had a blaster. That was about it, you know? And yeah, so I'm going to keep watching it, and I hope it gets better, but I start to resent shows that make me feel like a chore, like that, or they get good later. Everybody's like, oh, it gets good by episode 6.
Just watch 6 seasons in a movie, and then it gets good.
Yeah, what? I'm like, just make it good on the first. Like the first episode, I should be like titillated. I should be waiting for the second one. I'm like, I can't wait to see what happens. And
speaking of. What Gen V, the boys spinoff, that was their first episode. I was like, damn, that was a great episode. It was crazy, but I was invested within that first episode, and I can't wait. I'm
gonna check that one out too. Yeah, I keep seeing it's on Amazon or something.
Yeah,
I see it up there, so I'm gonna check that one out.
It's not gonna be for everybody, but
I like
it's not a kid show, because boy. Literally. The Boys.
Yeah, if it's anything like The Boys, I know it's not a kid's show, dude.
Well, for more of the people that are other people that are watching.
We were watching, it was one of the last seasons of The Boys, and my parents were visiting.
Oh no.
And my wife and I were watching it. Both my parents just kind of like meandering because they had been staying with us for like a week, and they sat down like, "Oh, what are you watching?" And we're like, "Oh, it's called The Boys." It was the episode where they like invade the giant like sex party or whatever it was.
Oh yeah.
And there's the dude with the very long. Yeah. And they were just like, what are you watching? I was like, oh my God. Like, it could not have been a worse episode to come in on. I was just like, yeah, Herogasm, says Connor. Yeah. That was the episode. And I was sweating. I felt
You're like
moist.
looking over the clock, waiting for it to end, please.
My dad was like, what is this? And I was just like, oh, it's because, and you're trying to explain the backstory, and you're like, yeah, there's no way. You can't explain it. Nobody can come in on that episode of The Boys and be like, what? Especially not an elderly person, you know.
Yeah.
So that was painful, but good episode.
Good show. Good show.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about, Matt?
Not really.
Get off your chest.
I love you.
Love you too, man. And we love you guys. And especially we love our Patreon members who are here. Man, look at our concurrent viewers. All-time record right now.
We got we're getting bigger. Look at that.
Yeah. We're loving making the show, guys. So we hope you guys enjoy it. Hit the sub button, hit the little notification button, and fight that YouTube algorithm. They're going to try and make you watch a video about some dude that dresses up like a dog on the street, which is Matt's alternate channel. But don't click on that video. Click on our video. Hit that notification bell, and you'll actually see your subscriber vids. You can watch the dog video, too. It'll help Matt out. He gets good ad revenue off of that one.
Yeah.
He made his money back on that $16,000 suit. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Bye.